right, well, since it's 7, we'll get started. Want to do the swearing in for us?
Sounds good.
All right.
All right. I just do a little introduction before we do the swearing in. So welcome, and thank you all for giving me the opportunity to come in and do your swearing in for the, have to look at the name, the Plan of Conservation Development Committee. So thank you all for volunteering. And for those of you that do not know me, I'm Jen Espinal. I am the new town clerk as of this past March. It's been a wonderful experience so far, and I look forward to serving all of you. So you will receive a packet that I put together. They're in alphabetical order, so I'm just going to pass them to you. That's okay. I just pass it down now. Take the one that belongs to you. In that packet, you will find an elected official information form, which I have already pre-filled for all of you. There are a couple areas that may need you guys to fill in, like the position. If you know what your position will be on the committee, please enter that in. The next step would be to please review that the information that I have typed in is correct. As far as emails, phone number and address, Mark, you did find an error on yours, but I corrected it already, so don't worry about that. Then the back of the form is going to be the Code of Ethics and Conflict of Interest form. If you feel that you have any conflict in your personal life or any other activities that you do that may conflict with this committee, please enter that here in this area. If you do not, just enter in A, print your name, sign, and date. I've also included the Town of Granby Code of Ethics. If you can't fall asleep, read through it, but it is very important for all of us to understand what our responsibilities are as public officials. And the last item that you'll find in your packet is this board and commission members. It would help everyone as part of the committee to understand your responsibilities so that you can always step in when a member is absent. If you have any questions on any of the information here on the cheat sheet, please feel free to reach out to me. So without further ado, if I can have everyone please stand up and raise your right hand for the oath. At the very end, just say I do or I solemnly swear. Do you solemnly swear and sincerely affirm that you'll faithfully discharge according to law your duties as a member of the Plan of Conservation Development Committee for the Town of Granby to the best of your ability, so help you God, or upon penalty of perjury? I do. Excellent. Congratulations.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then the last but not least is your oath. If you can please sign here. If you guys need a pen, I have one here. So signature and date, please.
Jen, my email address is not the one I use, so I should just cross it out.
Yes, please. Yep. If we've included an email address that you no longer use or you have a better one to use, please enter that one in.
If the phone number's wrong, just cross it out.
Cross it out, yep, and enter it in, yep, and I'll make sure to update it on my end.
This old email address just will not die. It just keeps coming back.
Does anybody?
You ready? I'm not ready yet. Okay.
I'm passing around, but I'm not sure who everybody is, so. You together?
23rd.
Good idea.
Yeah, so once you're done, just please pass it back to the front, and I will collect these. And as I said, the next one is your oath signature.
Whoops. That one got away.
Thank you so much.
I'll walk to the table. Okay. And we have to get up and sit down.
Is volunteering for the, or on the board at Holcomb Farm considered a conflict of interest?
I don't think so.
Okay. Just want to make sure. Asset. Asset. If you think so. Absolutely. Just went through that, right? I'll slow you down.
Thank you so much. Done, Crystal? Yeah, I think. And I think I'm still missing 2 of the information forms. Oh, there we go, that's one.
Take it about.
Okay, yep, I'll take it both. Perfect, thank you.
And then let's look, look.
Thank you. Oh, there it is. Here. All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jen.
Nice meeting you all. My office is available if you guys need anything.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much. So we'll officially now, since we're all sworn in, we can call our first meeting of the Plan of Conservation and Development Committee to order. I'm one of your co-chairs, Mark Lockwood.
I'm Christine Shinny, I'm the other co-chair.
So I want to welcome all of you, Chris as well, and thank you very much for your time on this committee, and we'll explain, you'll see if you haven't read through it already, this is important for giving guiding principles to the town. There's 2 alumni on this from the last plan, myself and you. So why we're doing it again, I don't know, but
Because it was so much fun.
it's so
the
much
first time.
fun. But I thought I would just, we'd go around and just, since a lot of us don't know everyone, just do a quick introduction, how long you've been in town, what boards and any interest you have. So I'll start it off. Mark Lockwood. I've been in town now, hard to believe, 25 years. Live up in North Granby. Been involved more in the town probably in the last 10 to 15 years. I was on the Conservation Commission, then the Planning and Zoning Commission. We're sat on this committee, and now I'm honored to be the chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission. So empty nesters now, so I get to spend some more time doing this. So.
I'm Christine Shinny, I'm on the Planning and Zoning Commission, I'm in the middle of my second 4-year term. John and I have been in town now for 22 years, also in North Granby. John's on the Land Trust Board, so we both care a lot about conservation. And we love the town, and so I was happy to be asked to serve.
I'm Jean Donahue Parent. As Mark mentioned, I was on the revision in 2016. Since then, just been busy with various things. Presently, I'm chair of the Commission on Aging and very excited that we're moving forward with some additional elderly housing where current school is.
Excellent.
Yeah, so we're doing some exciting things with the elderly in the community. My husband and I have lived here for just about 30 years, just a little 6 months short of 30 years. And Ben's been very active in town, Board of Ed, Board of Finance right now, and just really like being here in Granby. It's afforded us some really nice opportunities.
Brennan Shahan, I am a 23-year resident in town of Granby, on my second term as a member of the Planning and Conservation, Planning and Zoning. It's been a great opportunity to serve the town as a volunteer on these boards, and I look forward to working with this new board to look at what the next 10 years might bring this town. So.
I'm Peggy Chappell. I've been in town for 39 years, I think. I'm on the Board of Selectmen. I'm the Board of Selectmen representative to this group. I've been on the Board of Selectmen for 3 years, I believe, and before that I was on the Planning and Zoning Commission for, I think, 30-something years. I have to go back and check with the town clerk to see how long I was on, but I'm happy to be back with some of my friends from Planning and Zoning and look forward to this process.
My name's Ken Rohde, and I've been in Granby since 81, so 40 some odd years or so. And this is my first real adventure of being part of one of the committees, so I'm really looking forward to that. I watch them on TV, and I watch the what's going on, and very interested in participating, but I've never really actually sat on one before, so I'm looking forward to that.
Ellen Whitlow, on the Agricultural Committee in town. I grew up in town, so besides leaving town for a few years for college, and then after that, I've been here pretty much my whole life. My family owns the Hayes Dairy Farm or Sweet Pea Cheese in town, so besides working part-time for my parents, I have 4 kids, so.
Bill Ross, I'm a newcomer, been in town 19 years. And, we used to run the Dutch Irish Inn, bed and breakfast there. We still live there. We have way too many bathrooms, way too many bedrooms. But Ken's always bugging me about giving some of the bedrooms over. Anyways, I'm very involved in the Granby Congregational Church. I'm also been president twice on the Salmon Brook Historical Society. We served with Ken and I served together a couple of times. And I'm still involved with the Historic Society. And I like being in front. Probably see me, I walk my yellow lab around town a lot. So, I'm famous for it.
My name's Ken Kuhl. I've been here 29 years. I can't believe it. I got on the Economic Development Commission 28 or so years ago. I spent 20 some years with the Salmon Brook Historical Society. I've been on the Friends of the Cossett Library, now Friends of Public Library, Granby Public Library. And I think I did this 25 years ago. It was one of the first things I did when I came here. So I'm easy. If you need a committee that you want somebody to serve on, just ask me. I can't say no to anything. I've been selling real estate for 50 years this year. I started in 1975. Gerald Ford was president. Young people don't even know who Gerald Ford was. I love this town. This is the best place we've ever lived. Can't imagine how it could be much better than it is.
My name is Mark Kennedy. I was born and raised Granby. I've been here 52 years. Some members may know my father and mother, Pat Kennedy and Bill Kennedy, who served on the last commission, I guess. This is my foray into committees for the town. I just recently joined the board at Holcomb Farm. I'm a member of GLT and live up on Silky Road, right near UCAN, has Silky Heights.
Yeah.
Have 3 boys, and most of my volunteerism here in town has been coaching soccer. So,
Jim Zipsky, in town almost 5 years. This is a retirement for my wife and I. Our 3 adult daughters are between New York and Boston. On the Conservation Commission, and I volunteered at Holcomb Farm, a number of other gigs in the area, Habitat, we're building together a number of health and human services pursuits. I'm partway through the Connecticut Master Woodland Manager Program with a low-key academic pursuit over the next year. Glad to be here.
And I'm Abby Kenyon, the Director of Community Development. I've been here 7 years now, and I got hired just after the last plan was updated. So this is a first, so excited and looking forward to it. I just want to acknowledge too, we have Renee.
Introduce yourself.
Renee Delton Henry, I've been here just over 3 years. I'm the land use coordinator, and I've been through this process once in another town, so looking forward to it.
Good.
Well, again, thank you, everyone. Again, it's a time commitment. I know many of us serve on other boards, other of us are members of the public, which we appreciate your input and time for this. It's you know, there's going to be some nights that you're going to feel like it's going on forever, but we're going to go through this document. Just so for those of you who aren't familiar, if you need to use the restroom anytime, right out that door and to the right's restroom, just get up if you have to. Unless you really want to be in the conversation, we'll wait for you, but if not, just go and come back. There's a little kitchen there if you need some water or something too. Exits are there and there, so that's some facility matters. Work tonight, as you see in the agenda, Gene and I went through this last time. I have the frame of reference in there. I think, Ken, you went on it. You know, we can kind of determine how we want to go through this plan and discuss it. When I did it, you know, I don't know how Ken, you did, or Abby or Renee, you've seen it. We went through each section and discussed it. But, you know, we can kind of come up, you know, this is, the committee can decide what we want to do. I want everyone to feel free to, if you have an opinion, you know, speak up or let us know. Some of us are talkers, like myself. Other people are more, maybe not as talker, but we want to make you feel that everyone's opinion matters. Right? It's not just Mark talking or Chris or Brennan. You know, if you feel you have something to say, please interject yourself. So, Chris, you want to add anything?
I mean, this is the first time through this process for me too. Most of the time when I was not at the meeting where, no, I'm just kidding. Mark invited me to do this. I'm very excited about it. I think it's an important exercise. It is going to be time consuming, and for those of you who did have a chance to read through the document, obviously a lot of thought went into what our predecessors came up with here, and we want it to be the same way. I just want to echo what Mark said too. If you're not the kind of person who likes to talk, but you feel better about putting your sentiments in writing, you have our email addresses. There's actually a better email address for me that I'll have Abby send out to you tomorrow.
And just from a procedural matter too, if there's 6 of you in a room at any place at one time, do not talk about this. That constitutes a meeting. And if you're at Holcomb Farm or at a party somewhere and there's 6 of you, please do not talk about, because that constitutes a quorum. It could be a unannounced meeting, which is a violation of state law. So just keep that in mind. Just have to say that
absolutely.
procedurally.
Yeah, it's there. In my work life, I'm an attorney. I represent public school districts, and I'm constantly having to caution my clients about the rule that Mark just enunciated. Yeah, since we're an 11-person board, 6 of us constitutes a quorum, and if we're hanging out talking about POCD business in a meeting that wasn't noticed, that the public doesn't know about, and somebody decides to make an issue of it, that can be a problem for us. That is a violation of the open meeting law.
So I thought to start with, Chris and I talked, and we talked with Abby, that some of you probably just didn't even really know what a plan of conservation and development was until you got asked or voluntold, right, Chris?
Right.
Chris knew because you were on the Planning and Zoning Commission. But, you know, it's a very extensive document. It wasn't just developed in 2016. It's a living document, right? It's been built on over the years. And we're going to modify. I know we're not going to come out of this leaving it the same. It'll change. So I thought, maybe some of you have lived it and read it a lot, some of you haven't, and I thought for our introduction meeting, it might be good just to go through, what a plan of conservation and development is. Why is it important? Why are we here talking about it? Why do we have to do it every 10 years? And then start to go through the plan, not in detail, because we're not going to really discuss this, kind of go through the sections. And then as you see on the agenda, we'll talk about what we want to do as far as timelines. We want to get public engagement. What data does this commission thinks it's going to need? Because we're going to rely on Abby's office for a lot of the data, but some of us too can collect data.
Yeah.
So, and again, when you're communicating, if you're communicating any commission business, please always make sure Abby is on copy. Again, that's for meeting rules. Right? So,
Yes, and also just so that Mark and I know that if you send something to us, Abby should get it too, so that we don't have to sort constantly that, oh, did you get this, Abby? Did they ever do that? So just so she can stay ahead of what all the members are looking for and can process whatever our requests are more smoothly.
But I'll just kick it off that this plan that you see, I think we have 168, 169 towns in the state. Every one of them has to have one of these. It's a state law. All right, and Abby will go through some of the details on that. And why is it a state law? It's because this document is what town boards, and it's not just planning and zoning that uses it, the Board of Selectmen use it, Development Commission, Conservation, any of the boards and committees in town can rely on this document of, this is where the town's looking to go. People that come to town that either want to do commercial development, any type of activity in town, they can point to this document, come in this room to whatever board and say, your plan of conservation and development says this, right? And our boards have to act in consistency with this, especially planning and zoning.
Yeah, people come before us all the time and make reference to it.
You'll see the zones in planning and zoning are built around, you'll see uses and zones it from this. And then again, the selectmen use it for public property and all the other boards. So it's an important foundational document that may sit dormant and you don't see it, but when it, people go, why are we doing this in town? Well, it's on page whatever of the POCD. We're going to start calling it POCD because it's easier. So,
Absolutely.
anyone else add?
Yeah, I think that's a good summary. I think most of the issues that we have to look at to develop the plan, the PCOD are set forth in the statute. We sort of, so that's why it's looks kind of, there is a format we kind of have to follow based on what the statute requires us to look into.
So Abby, you want to run us through the very exciting things of state statutes?
Yeah.
It's riveting.
So just for everyone's reference, again, so the POCD is called for in state statute for municipalities to say eligible for discretionary state funding. We have to adopt one. And again, it's every 10 years. So going around is the applicable section of the state statute. As Mark and Chris said, the current POCD, it hits on all of those points that are required out of state statute. That's not to say if this committee would like to reorganize or take a slightly different approach, that's completely fine. It doesn't have to follow the exact same format, just as long as the key topics are covered. So if you turn to the second page under E, that's where it really starts to outline the key points. So it must be a statement of policies, goals, and standards for the physical and economic development of the town. It has to take into account transportation, so provide for a system of thoroughfares, parkways, bridges, streets, sidewalks, multi-purpose trails. Be designed to promote with the greatest efficiency and economy the coordinated development. Has to identify where there's areas to have compact, transit, accessible, pedestrian-oriented, mixed-use development patterns and land reuse. It's to recommend the most desirable use of land within the municipality for residential, recreational, commercial, industrial, conservation, ag, and other purposes, and include a map showing that. Recommend the most desirable density of population in several parts of the municipality. And then it hits on some other key points. So as part of this, we have to look at the expansion of housing opportunities and design choices to accommodate a variety of household types and needs. concentration of development around transportation nodes, conservation and restoration of natural environment, cultural and historical resources, and existing farmlands, looking at the protection of environmental assets critical to public health and safety. And again, so you'll see in here, there are certainly some topics that definitely have to be covered. Again, going down to G, provision of development of housing opportunities, H, promote housing choice. And then and F are some optional ones, and the current POCD does include reference, so conservation, preservation of trap rock and other ridge lines, airport, parks, playgrounds, and other public facilities. So there is a component in here too. Not only are we focusing on land use, commercial and economic development, conservation and preservation, but we're also looking at town facilities, an inventory of what we currently have, what the town might need. So thinking about some projects that have currently been discussed, such as redeveloping the current school, which is town property, certainly the discussion surrounding the library and potential expansion. So all things like that, we would consider and figure out how and if it should be addressed in the POCD. And that's where there's certainly a financial component to it. And we'll be consulting our Board of Finance representative as well. Anything else, Mark, the key points?
No, I think you got it.
Yeah, I think that's everything.
So yeah, it's a lot to cover, a lot of topics. They're all interrelated. So again, I think using our current POCD as a framework and starting point makes a lot of sense. And then we can figure out how and if it should be reorganized a little bit to make sure we hit on all the key points from the state statute.
I also wanted to mention, I didn't mention it before, but all these things in this plan, with us doing it, if you look, some towns hire a consultant to do it. Not only, in my opinion, is that expenditure, of course, of taxpayer dollars, but the consultants don't. Look at the experience we have in this room. We have some people new, old, and middle. I really think it's important that we have residents working on this plan and not consultants. So that's also
I agree with Mark. I
compliment.
think if you look at some of the plans that are written by consultants, they kind of almost look like your town's name here. And that's not how Granby likes to operate. We like to keep our local input local.
But feel free to look at other plans, towns, it's not, you get ideas from it, so, I'll look around, because every town has one that should be on their website, so you can take a look at it and see if you like it.
I had a question, Randy.
Yeah.
So some of these, do these fit right in with the zoning?
Some of them,
Zoning?
yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
not all of them, but some.
Correct,
Okay.
yep. And something too that I want to point out, as part of our POCD, we, at the end of it, will also have to look and make sure it's consistent with the state plan of conservation development and the regional plan of conservation development. So the state has an overarching plan. So certainly as we develop this, we'll have to reference the state plan of conservation development and the regional plan of conservation and development that CROG issues to make sure that, we're falling in line with that, or if there are points that are different, highlighting them in our plan and why they're different. So that's something that I just want to highlight as well. So when we submit at the end to OPM, they'll look to make sure that we have hit on that as well.
And OPM stands for?
The Office of Policy and Management. So yeah, when this is all done, it gets sent into OPM and they hold all of the POCDs, and they're the ones that track where towns are in terms of when they're coming up on the 10-year renewal. Well, and that's, the different state agencies will look to OPM when you apply for grant funding to make sure that you have a current plan. And if you don't, there has to be a reason why,
And we didn't get around to it as a good enough.
Is every town on a different 10-year schedule? So
yes, yep.
Everyone that
statute refers to the commission, that's the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Yeah, and thank you, Peggy, yes. So the Planning and Zoning Commission is the commission that's responsible for creating the POCD. So at the end of the day, it will be the Planning and Zoning Commission that holds the public hearing for input. They're the ones that refer it to Board of Selectmen, they're the ones that ultimately forward it on to the state. But under state statute, they're able to create a subcommittee, which is, so Planning and Zoning made that decision to have a subcommittee to work on this. But yes, it is a Planning and Zoning Commission document, even though, of course, it covers the entire town, which is why they felt it important to have a subcommittee with different folks participating in that process.
Other questions? Do you want to do a little walk through the current plan? Mm-hmm. Okay. And again, we'll go through, if you have some comments, you can make them tonight, but I would suggest, make some notes, because we kind of want to go through the plan, and then we'll go back. My anticipation, we're going to discuss process and timeline, right? But we'll go back at our next meeting and start going through the sections. In the introduction, we might end up coming back to several times, but we'll, I just kind of want to get grounded of where was Granby thinking in 2016, okay? And then get thinking as you read through it, if you've read it already, and as we will talk through it today, I made some notes about, well, that was good in 2016, but we've either done it or times have changed and that's really not applicable.
Is there a formal way that what's been done has been tracked, or is this sort of just a background document? It's not one that gets tracked, like in the implementation plan? Does the implementation plan get ticked off when things are done, or?
Yeah, so great question. So yes, this POCD had various goals and recommendations. So following the adoption of this, there was a POCD implementation committee that basically went through all of those recommendations, all of those tasks, farmed them out to different boards and commissions where they were most applicable. And the different various boards and commissions were responsible for taking a look, prioritizing, and then making some progress on those tasks. So that is something that lived in my office. So as folks or boards and commissions finished work, they would report it to me. I would track it. I do think that's an area where I think we might want to consider changing this go around. So perhaps having the implementation chart, if you will, and who's responsible for what is actually part of the POCD. So when we go through it and we look at the different tasks, we can figure out, who does it make sense to assign this to, and that can just live in this document instead of having a separate process. And I think that'll help to make sure it's fresh, it's all in one place. And aside from that, though, with the specific tasks in general, the POCD does serve as just an overarching guiding document. So even if certain things aren't necessarily pursued, especially planning and zoning, they'll still reference it as part of their land use decisions, when considering text amendments, what makes sense in certain areas of town, why they would consider adding uses to the regulations. Is it found in the POCD? So yeah. That goes along with
We
the way
can
of.
send that chart to everybody, probably. We'll send the chart to,
I was going to ask about that. That would be really useful to know sort of what here's been done, because then that kind of narrows down. Then we can look at the ones that haven't been done and maybe look at it, as Mark was saying, yeah, that's still a great idea, we should still pursue that, or, that sounded good, but times have changed, it really doesn't make sense to pursue that.
Yeah. Personally speaking, I think sometimes when it comes to this, less is more. So instead of having a laundry list, so when I send out the POCD implementation table from this plan, you'll see it's pages and pages and pages. Perhaps this go around picking highlights and making sure it's actually actionable, I think might be a little bit more effective in making sure that this doesn't live on a shelf. But that's something we can look at certainly as we go through it.
On the flip side of that, and I guess I've read this a couple of times, I've looked at some of the history, it sounds like the implementation team existed for a while, but I mean, hasn't met in years. And of course,
Yep.
something called COVID showed up in the middle of that, which I'm sure was very helpful. But it would be, in hearing this discussion, it would be helpful for me as we go through this if people talk to, maybe not the, well, we did 62 out of 100 things, but in principle, do we think we did this? And I mean, not tonight or anything, but as I read it, I'd be like, okay, 5 years, but very active in town. I look at it and go, okay, I'll be interested to hear the discussion on that. I'm sure some things were done, but some things are still an opportunity perhaps, you know, so I don't know if there's a way to do that, but I like your comment about, well, maybe don't try to get lost in the detail, but in principle, does it still apply? In principle, what did we accomplish and what's still left as an opportunity?
I do think that one of the things that I've been thinking about as I've read through this now a couple of times, that it might be best to stick with more actionable items, to use Abby's term. A lot of this is aspirational, which is great, but which isn't really much of a guide thereafter. Thanks for all those suggestions. It sounds great to protect biodiversity, but unless you really talk about how you're specifically going to do that, it's not much of a guide for
World
people who are
peace,
supposed
you
to
know.
act. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess if you read, there's some actionable things like, I'm making this up, you know, all town buildings should be painted blue. Okay? That's a very definitive thing. And then we really need to fix the bad intersections in town. Well, the one's very controllable, right? The other is, well, we have a lot of work to do. It's a guiding principle. And you'll see those things in the plan. There's some very definable things, to your point, what did we do those? And then there's some other, gee, this would be nice to work on and kind of guide the town for. And this plan's going to be a mix of those. And it'll be that when we come out of it. There'll be some things all of us feel we really need to do. Maybe not paint the buildings blue, but something like that. And then there's going to be, gee, I really wish we kind of think about this. And as the town starts to work on things, they should refer to this and say, well, gee, we're going to be doing this. And the plan says, we should be thinking about it. So.
Yeah, I think sort of a combined thing that was in this plan that I can think of a concrete example of achieving it is preserving Holcomb Farm. Holcomb Farm that's been accomplished. Holcomb Farm is not, the development rights are now owned by the Granby Land Trust, so that land's never going to be developed. So that was a very concrete action that was taken that fits into the aspiration, we should preserve open space. Well, we did, because we did that.
Great. And Chris, 270 acres of woodlands were preserved. The farm itself is not preserved, and it's still an open item as far as this volunteer is concerned. The 40 acres, the agricultural fields, the farm itself is not preserved. The 270 acres of woodlands are.
I'll have to ask about that.
Well, he's right. I mean,
Yes.
The land around is just, but the core of it is flexible use. It's not, we went through that. We're not here to talk about, but I know.
Right, that was just an example.
Right, but in an open forum, I just wanted to say that, it's a lovely statement, and it's lovely that 270 acres were preserved, but we cannot say that Holcomb Farm is preserved.
Yep.
A portion is.
Yep. So, we want to start doing a little page turn, Abby, in the sections?
All right, so starting with the introduction, so I'm kind of approaching this, if everyone's in agreement, kind of see what we currently have and then think about what we might want to consider changing for this update. So this is the introduction. It basically just grounds the plan, so why we're doing it. State statute talks about the subcommittee that was appointed, the different considerations and other planning documents that were considered as part of this plan update back in 2016. Any thoughts on the introduction? I think this is a great start to kind of set the stage.
I had one thing that I picked up, I was looking at this again last night, but it talks about this 1993 plan. Is that still relevant? I mean, it was referenced, and Gene, I don't even remember looking at it back then. It says we did, but that was 10 years ago. I don't know if that's relevant to this day, or...
Are those available?
I mean, it was-
online? or-
Oh, I don't know about that. Probably not.
Might be just curious if we have it. Is that when they
Okay.
first started doing them?
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the earlier ones.
Yeah, I might be curious as to see
Okay.
where that, just from a historical, where we come from, so.
Okay.
And it's a reference, so.
Yeah. Thank you.
I think on, pages 5 and 6 seem pretty basic and straightforward. You know, maybe some review, a quick look at it, like Mark just mentioned, 1993 plan. I think the third and fourth paragraph on page 7 are really fundamental values, really speak strongly to the core values that's being stated for Granby residents. And I think, as a commission, we should be looking at that and see if there's something that needs to be changed, or because those two paragraphs really spell it out, in my opinion.
Yeah, so this is a good question, Brennan. So the fundamental values in this section, I think it really goes back to state statute where you outline a vision. So you have a vision statement for the town. So kind of creating that and then having the plan live under that and make sure it reflects the fundamental values and the vision. So this might be a good one to highlight and have an opportunity for public input and how we want to take what our current fundamental values are and put it back out to the community and get a check. Like, does this all still apply? Things have changed in the past 10 years. What are some other issues we might want to consider in the fundamental values here?
But even updating some of the numbers too, like available land for development and what's preserved.
Yep.
Those numbers have changed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll definitely get into that with on the agenda, the data and mapping.
Yeah,
Because
okay.
certainly, there have been, some significant changes.
So when you say you're updating, does that mean you're going to leave the document as it is unless there's changes to it? So you just sort of, you don't rethink the whole introduction, you just edit it so that it's current?
Yeah, so I think at least for the introduction part, updating that to make sure that it's more current. And then going on to the fundamental values, that's something I think this committee really needs to look at in detail and then also put it out for some public input. So it outlines, I think it, starts on page 7 and it has all the key topics. So agriculture, residents, volunteers, scenic roads, open space, waterways, water bodies, wildlife, woodlands, forest, Granby Center, historic preservation, housing, education, recreation. And you'll see later on in the plan that those key topics are covered. So again, what is our vision? What are our values when it comes to those areas?
And then, as you read through it, again, you might read in the agriculture section and say, well, maybe we need to adjust this for some things or add this. And that's perfectly fine. Or there may be, I agree with it all. We don't have to change it. So, we're reviewing to see where we're going, and if we still think what was said 10 years ago is still good.
Mark, as part of the process, will we be looking at the center study committee's recommendations and?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a whole section in here, I'm sure you saw on the center. So the center study recommendation, which they're meeting tomorrow. I don't want to jump ahead, but since Peggy asked, when is that done?
It should be done maybe October or November, so definitely in time to look at that and.
Yeah, so by the time we get to that
Sections.
section, we should have that study.
Oh, good.
That'll be inserted into this?
So that's a good question. I don't think it'd be appropriate to insert the entire Granby Center study, but certainly in the Granby Center section of the POCD, pull out key points and overarching ideas from the Granby Center study, I think would make sense. And then, reference back to it.
Yeah, there's a whole, we would say, we like this part, let's put it in, or.
You gotta
So
make sure.
isn't that kind of like putting the cart before the horse? Shouldn't we decide what the plan is before the center study is completed? No?
Well, first off, the Granby Center study has been going on for almost 2 years now.
Yeah.
And that study, it's obviously targeted to the center of town. There is specific outreach and issues covered within that study that are very specific to the center of town. So I think it makes sense to fold it into this. And certainly the issues and topics that came up during the Granby Center stuff, I think overarching, they'll be covered in the POCD as well during public input and workshops. So I don't think you're going to see a conflict necessarily.
Okay.
And especially the Granby Center study, they looked at this plan, they looked at other things going on in town, so it's very current, which is why, again, I think it makes sense just to pull it into this.
Okay, it just seems to me that because it's so close to this center study finishing and this needing to be revised, that this should have come first. But I'll wait and see what it is and.
We're using the data from that. I mean, if this, you guys will be like, we'll be done with this in October, right? No. This is a long process, and the Center Study Committee has taken they've actually helped us, in my view, because they're gonna give us a lot of data. They're not making a plan, they're making a recommendation.
Recommendations, and then we can choose
Wonderful,
to
okay.
incorporate.
I
Yeah,
misinterpreted.
It's a study, so
Okay.
the study's gonna come back to the Board of Selectmen and the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay,
And now that this committee's formed, we'll get a copy, right? So I would say, to your point, the reason that the fact they're so close, I don't see either board really taking an action
gotcha.
on it unless there's something that's very obvious that could help short-term, but put it in this plan.
Okay, great,
Yeah.
thank you.
May I ask just a little bit about this sort of perceived audience? I mean, when I read through this, I was trying to, say, all right, who uses this? How do they use it? How do we make sure that it actually is valuable, rather than just a pro forma document? And it seems that there's the communication to residents. This is what we believe. That's bi-directional. There's the communication to the boards, which is procedural guidance that says these are the things you need to take into consideration. And then there appears to also be communication to external developers, state funders, which become more almost commitments, where we say, if I heard correctly, well, you said you were going to do this or you valued this, so why are you telling us that we can't do whatever X, Y, Z is? And I'm just trying to think about how those get shaped, because I mark different colors, the things that are really value oriented to the community that says, yeah, this is Granby. And then there's the board stuff, that says what you should be thinking about. And then there's the external commitments. How is that audience, who is the audience? All of those, I imagine, right? But they're a little bit different. I mean, if it's an external commitment, you have to be a little bit careful of the way the wording is, at least a little bit. And if it's to the town, I mean, that's really values, communicating values is different than communicating to the boards. So, because I just noticed even on these couple of pages, that there's a lot of commingling of these messaging.
Just a little confused. When you say external commitments, what exactly so I know, there are certain projects, for instance, that were included in the last one. Like I know they spoke about the intersection improvement projects and some transportation issues that were highlighted. But it's not necessarily an external commitment. It's just including it in the plan, which does help grant applications.
Right.
So should the town want to pursue funding opportunities for certain projects, I think of sidewalks in Granby Center would be a perfect one. We could point to, it's in our plan of conservation and development. It envisions, a pedestrian-oriented, well-connected town center. Here it is. So that lends itself to support a grant application. So is that what you mean in terms of external?
And I'm learning as I'm going here, just from your introductory statements there, you said that, that if a developer comes and they're doing their presentation and we say, oh, no, we don't really think, well, it's right here. See, it says right here, you believe in that, and so just, how all those
Interesting,
parts fit
as
together.
As it's really played out on the Planning and Zoning Commission, most of the time, it's us saying, well, what you want to do isn't really consistent with this
Okay.
particular item that you want to include isn't consistent with our plan of conservation and development, so that makes us disinclined to say yes to your project as it's currently put together. It's more that we use it to guide developers, saying, well, so for example, a developer who wants a special permit would meet with that typically, if they're smart, that's what they'll do. And they might say, well, here's what we're proposing for this particular lot. And she'll say, well, here are several ways what you're proposing, it contradicts what's in the plan of conservation and development. And I can just tell you, Planning and Zoning Commission does take that plan very seriously. So you've got a better shot of getting your special project approved if you conform with this as much as you can. And this particular project that you're proposing doesn't. So you really probably want to go back to the drawing board and make some changes. So it's more used that way, where we're saying, if you want something that's not typical to that zone, you want to do something a little different, and it's not consistent with this, we're less likely to approve it. So the arrow goes more the other way, at least in that example.
Okay. Just looking how, shaping messages to the audience and users.
If it says in here, we're, pick something, we're not interested in building a monorail. Those who watch The Simpsons, right? And the monorail developer comes in and our plan says, you can present, but that's not in Granby's vision, right? So the boards will use that in that, or if it says, yeah, we want one, and the lady or guy comes in and wants something, then they can point to the plan. It's not binding,
right,
but it's persuasive, right? And so it's part of when any board or commission acts, they look at the record, right? And so if we're going against our plan, somebody's going, why are they totally against it? But as Chris said, more times than not, the commissions will reference that to a member of the public that's coming in. It's not just the planning and zoning, the selectmen use it as well, and all the other commissions, but mostly the boards that get, public involvement.
I think developers who know what they're doing will come to us and say, my project conforms with the plan of conservation and development, and try and convince us that it does.
I'll add to that is when we're looking at development in the town of Granby, and the way I see it, the planning and zoning regulations are the end all be all. They're written, they're defined. You have to comply to the zoning and regulations. But I think as overarching umbrella of that is the POCD. And if the residents feel that the goal of the POCD is not being followed, then that is the time for the residents to come in and pick up this document and say, the zoning regulations might permit this, but the POCD was very clear that the town's vision did not want this to happen. So I think it's a very important document, very powerful tool. And as a member of planning and zoning, I would definitely, listen to the overarching theme of the POCD from the residents of the town of Granby.
I think we all do.
Yeah.
I mean, I think all the members of the Planning and Zoning Commission take that very seriously. And I'm sure the selectmen do as well.
Okay.
So then as we go, the values that are in here, and again, we'll read them in some more detail. I read to a vision, right? And this is where we have to, not tonight, but think about where this was written 10 years ago. What do we want to put here? Right? This will be something to think about. And it may not be something we may get to this section and say, well, I want to finish the plan, then come back to it. Right?
I've been kind of thinking that too.
Yeah, this might,
The
we might want to go
specifics.
through the details, because you'll get down to page 40 and say, oh, this is this, and then, so, think about it when you come in day 2 of your committee membership versus the end of the process.
I come out of strategic planning, do a lot of, things similar to this in other realms, but Does this get assessed? I mean, I'm not saying put it in the plan or anything like that, but I mean, you got your little box, you say, done. Oh, yes, we're score in, medium, thumbs up, thumbs down, didn't quite make it, it's a vision, but we didn't deliver, or yeah, boy, we scored on that one, that, so how do we know that if the purpose is to kind of set the tone, but then also determine, are we living up to it, or, is Granby sliding over here, or is it on track to reach the vision after the next 10 years?
I think you can read through it, and then we can discuss it. We all, long-term residents, or short-term, medium-term, we can, has there been a modest expansion of the water and sewer? Yeah, a little bit. And I don't need data for that, I can just subjectively say. But there might be another one, like, we need data. Did we do this, right? Is the housing values or whatever says up, and maybe, Ken has some background, or Abby, there's some data that we want to see how it does, we can ask for it. Right, so, improve vehicular traffic flow. Subjectively, we did a major intersection thing. I would say yes. Now, do I need data for that? I mean, I could go get it from you, but I think subjectively, we could all say, yeah, that subjective feeling is objective, because I can walk out the door and see it. Right.
Anybody who commutes to and from Hartford every day at rush hour knows that there has been improvement in that area.
So you think about Station 280, used to be a cornfield, now it's high-density housing. It was zoned for what is there, but I think the community has looked at it as a cornfield, and they're shocked that a cornfield can become high-density housing. So there are uses in town that aren't zoned for the way they're being used, and I don't know if we do a good job of communicating with the people in town that this is how it's zoned, this is what has been approved by planning and zoning.
And it's in the plan too, right? So, yeah.
But I'm constantly amazed that people, when they see something happening, they're shocked and they think there's some under-the-table deal made, and that's not a good way to run. And I know you guys, you work for nothing and you get more criticism than anybody in town. I mean, it's sort of like you can't win. In fact, Fran used to say, if half of the town is against it, half is for it, I must be doing a good job. But I just would hate to see people, now that we have these new social media formats where everybody has a pedestal that they can deliver, they can get people worked up.
Well, the problem with that thinking, though, is the fact that there are zoning regulations. The zoning regulations don't say everything in town will stay exactly the same as it was the day we published these zoning regulations. If the fact that something's in a use that's less dense than what's allowed is, that's how zoning works all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
When the land becomes more profitable to develop, somebody who owns it may want to develop it. And then we have choices to make, and we've made some of these choices as a town. We decided we didn't want to see the Avantian Farm developed in a certain way, so we bought it. And some people criticize those choices too, but you can't simply say to the owner, well, we like it as a cornfield, so too bad for you. That's not how real estate works.
No, and when we have agriculture as our first thing, some people think that means that if it's a cornfield, that means we're committed to keeping it a cornfield, and that's not the case when zoning allows totally other uses. So I'm not sure.
I think we also have to remember in guiding, zoning doesn't do anything, right? We don't own the land. We don't tell people what to do. It's just fundamental, we all own property, or many of us do, I should say, and there's a fundamental right, and the zoning allows certain things and prohibits certain things. And so, the plan says, recognize that change and growth are inevitable and even necessary. Our past chairman of the board, Paula Johnson, was famous to tell me that a lot of people move here and they want to put the drawbridge up. I can move here, but nobody else, okay? And that there's some people that feel that way. But also, I think that statement is change and growth are inevitable. I mean, we're seeing changes in what this plan does, for me, is we have to do it smartly. We have to do it managedly. Granby's, if you'll see through the plan, we talk about it, has been excellent in both town preserving open space, the Granby Land Trust, McLean's, private people doing things, but there's also a mix, right? It has to be done balanced and be done properly, and that's what this plan's about. I've heard things about the Station 280 is a great example. It was not even a cornfield, Ken, it was nothing field,
It was a fallow field.
right? And
They dump manure every year.
it was in the plan of, that's where the housing was, it's part of the mix, and so property owner did it, maybe going forward, that's something we want to change in the plan. We maybe have enough of that housing in town. I don't know. That's what we can discuss.
When I first read through this, and this first time that I had read through this, when, for the beginning of this exercise, I was very impressed because it's really, you're balancing the preservation and growth, and you're balancing the conservation and the development. It's really a balancing act of all these things. You're balancing all, it's the giant spider diagram where you're balancing every one of these values, and you can't have it all. Some things have to kind of shift and change, and I was very impressed by that. But what I kept looking for is, like the cornfield. Okay, cornfield, agriculture down, housing up, walkability up, all of these, it's all of that balancing. But how that when I looked at it, I said, wow, this really amazing. Is it in balance? Of course, it's never going to be in balance, but is it doing a good job? Is the Granby that people, want and love, that has this balance? They say, oh, okay, well, one cornfield buys us this, and we balance this, a little bit of this, because then, and the roundabout and the new intersection, well, that's really, and so I was just trying to, think of the communication of how the balance happens, because I think I'm kind of feeling that that's really the objective, is helping people balance all these conflicting goals in a way that makes sense to as many people as possible.
Well said, and I guess it's by far the newest guy here, and in reading it, I would have said, okay, this document said exactly where Station 280 was going to wind up. It was going to wind up in the core, it was going to wind up where there were public utilities, et cetera, et cetera. Just as a vignette, not to talk about in detail, 107 East Street is the Bonson Farm. I know it by address, not by name, right?
Yeah.
So for a variety of reasons, I happen to know that that's R30. That's pretty high density, single home development. That one confuses me when I read this document and I say, oh, okay, I wouldn't do that kind of a development there. But this document would guide me exactly towards, if I'm going to have something higher density, it's going to be on a piece of property, just as this document guides you. The other one, and I wasn't here in 2012 when the $2.5 million purchase was made.
Not on sewer. That's a big difference between Avanchan Farm and where 280 is. Avanchan Farm is not on the sewer line, so a development like that couldn't be supported where Avanchan Farm is.
Right, I got it, but I guess my point was knowing that it's R30, that Avanchan Farm is R30, that it surprised me that it was R30. So based on the guidance of this document, again, I'm not trying to get into the bug stuff, it was just, this document tries to balance a lot of things. This document guides you to exactly where a Station 280 would be. Again, as a 5-year resident with interests in various areas, I'm surprised that the Avanchan Farm is R30, based on the guidance of this document.
Whole town is residential,
balance.
right?
Yes.
The
Majority.
the square miles or acreage is.
It's actually stated
So
in
the
here.
whole town is residential, the zoning is really based on soil type, right? To some degree,
No,
and,
there's more zoning than that. I mean, we have an industrial zone, we have a center zone.
no, I understand that, but to the question of
Commercial
the
zone.
Avanchan Farm being R30, can anybody explain why it's R30?
Well, but if you look at the
Because
homes
he's
that are
asking.
near, if you look at the homes that are nearest there, they're the types of homes that you find in the R30 zone. They're on small lots. They don't require a lot. We don't require a large number of acreage in that zone.
Granby Farms is another example of what was like Avanchan Farm. It was cornfields when I grew up.
It's Kent, that
That's
zoning
our-
was in effect, okay, that hasn't changed, right, because the town bought it, the Avanchan Farm, it was zoned before, I don't know, Peggy, you were on the commission, you said a while, it was probably zoned that way from one of the original.
Okay.
You know, it's been in the original, we have to look in our plan, so I don't want to get in the weeds on that. But the zoning of where we're at, it's changed over time. Like I live in a spot that I think had acre lots, now it's 2 acre lots. So that's something we can look at. I mean, the Avance pressure kind of went off when the town bought it, right? So,
It was just an example
Yeah.
of balance, and it was a compliment to this document,
Yeah,
really.
yeah.
It just, but it was an example of balance where it's like, oh, Station 280, based on this document, is making complete sense to me. Being aware of, less than 1 acre lots out that far off the grid, so to speak, the center of town, was one that I'm like, oh, well, that's kind of a head scratcher to me. I'm not looking to dissect it here, but just it goes to the point of you're trying to balance a lot of things.
And I still submit that soil conditions have something to do with it. If it was difficult soil, you wouldn't have R30 if you couldn't.
well, people couldn't build on it. You can still have R30, but instead of putting, you can only put whatever. Because I don't really think zoning, when we look at stuff, we don't look at, well, this is sandy soil, we can put R30. I mean, Abby, you're
Yeah.
more experienced in
It's
it.
got to support a septic.
Certainly it would have to, yeah, support septic under
Yeah.
the health code, yeah.
So. That's good talk. I mean, Abby, I think we talked more on this, but one of the things is data, like,
Yeah.
in the plan, and again, I'm not jumping ahead, which means I'm skipping, I don't care about it, we do care about it, but we'll get into details, but I want to look at some of the, when you get into page 15. By the way, I've asked Abby for the 2026 edition to have this modernized as far as table of contents, section headings, internet searchable, so to kind of modernize the document, so that's on the plans if we can get the programming help. But anyway, there's a lot of data in here, and we'll start with, you look at the demographics of town, when I looked at it, the 80s, it was a steady increase, and then it's kind of planed off, right? And Abby, I don't know if you have the current population from the 2020 census, I didn't ask you for it, but it's similar.
It's around there.
Yeah, I mean, we've had some increase with some development in the center, but it's kind of plateaued into that.
In context, the population in 1971 was around 6,600.
Yeah. I think the beginning of the plan says, we turned in the 40s, it started to change, and that's just the whole area. So,
Interesting, it says in the paragraph above that they're projecting 826, which is a super precise number, but I looked at this number and I said, I bet it's between 500 and 1,000, more than that, and that's just what they project.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so one of the items I'll have prepared for next meeting is some of this data, because I think it's important to set the stage, where are we today on these data points? And certainly that can get pulled into the plan. So just looking at this table, if anyone thinks of anything else that you want to see, let me know and I can pull that as well.
2020 census had us at 10.9.
I think school age,
number of
kids,
kids, yeah.
school population would be helpful in there.
We're not hitting these projections.
Is it dropping or?
They projected 11,826 by, or 11,696 by 2020.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want
Projections are
to
based
tease
on
out, you have number of housing units. Would you tease out the number of rental units in there? I think that
That's
would
probably a
be
big change.
interesting to see.
Yeah, I think they have renter and owner occupied.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be interesting, since the rental stock's gone up so much in the
Right.
since they asked for it.
Yeah, and that'll be, I think there's a whole housing section too, so yeah, we might pull a lot of that data in
There's a lot of
for
discussion
that
about
one.
generating diversity of housing, so yeah, having rental unit data.
I think the over 25 population number is kind of fascinating. Steadily has climbed.
Good. We need young people.
Well, but that's just it. It's the population between 25 and 50 or 50 and over?
Or 25 and older is too broad a, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I could see getting some breaks into that, and I'm sure
Yes.
census has got a lot of that data.
My gut's telling me it's bloating above 50.
Especially with the affordability of houses.
I couldn't move to this town now.
Median gross rent has certainly increased.
Percent working at home is going to be interesting. I don't know how they calculate that, but that has got to gone way up from COVID
Just technology.
and technology, yeah.
In addition, people have flexed schedules now.
Yeah.
I work from home 2 days a week.
Maybe.
Oh, I hope not.
Well,
That'd be terrible.
grand and 280.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe, but.
So Abby, can we get good numbers today on all of these things? So we
Yeah,
can
so-
Compare what the projections were and really get a handle on how the town changed in the last 10 years?
Yeah, so data-wise, it's most accurate to compare the 10-year census across the board and not throw in ACS data because that's not as accurate. So what I'll plan on doing is adding the 2020 census, which that is also not exactly the best data, given when it was conducted. But I will pull in the 2020 census data, so it's the 10-year across the board. And then I will find some ACS data, but I'm just a little hesitant to show it as a comparison point. But I will make sure that that's pulled in, because it is more recent, now that we're 5 years out from the last census.
The ages are going up now. The median,
Yeah.
50% of the population is above.
No, it's also, as we look at this is data-driven too. I mean, you look at the median age, right, it was just mentioned, right, it's going up, and it's the gap of when kids graduate high school and college, do they stay here? Probably not. Right, and there's reasons why, I won't get into all the details, but, that impacts our planning, right? And I'm always a fan, it's nice to have a mix of population, right? You don't want to have one-sided one way or the other, and so, but some of that stuff's more regional based or statewide basis than what we can control in town, but we can still identify it.
And even encourage it, even if
Yeah.
you know we aren't going to achieve, they are optimal goal in that regard.
Like Ken's point in the cost of housing, you have to find a way to get them from the apartment at 280 to a single-family home type of thing, even if it's a tiny home. And then how do they, if they want to move on, where do they move on from that?
Well, also, I'm not going to get into the economics of private apartment complexes, but from what I understand, it might be cheaper to live in a house than
Yes.
apartments.
Fair enough.
So some of the.
If you can
Yeah,
swing.
Particularly in the luxury apartments, if that's
Yeah.
what they are.
There's there's definitely different demographics and, as you stated, in the plan. So, I think that's housing in the entire state, we're going to talk about in this plan. That's a challenge, right? And there's many, many opinions about it. We have an affordable housing plan in town and, it's going to be a challenge for us how we balance that, right? Because there's one side that wants this one type of affordable housing, and is that really what meets the long-term plan, or is it a short-term? And, that's going to be a discussion, and we'll probably reference that affordable housing plan, because that's separate from this. That's an update done,
2027.
okay. So we're not going to spend a lot of time on affordable housing, because that's its own plan. So not to get distracted from it, but it's something we can consider. On data too, I know we have a section on the budget, maybe if you're writing down notes, I would like to what's the tax and mill rates over the years been? Are we going up, down, percent, maybe tax burden on, because that's always, those of us, you'll hear people want more commercial, I want my taxes down. Somebody wants to do something commercial, no, I don't want it. So,
And not that. I
Not
want more
that.
commercial, but not that.
put it someplace else. I put it in Enfield, I don't want it, but anyway, it's a balance again, and as you'll see in the plan, and as somebody pointed out, we have a very targeted spot or area in town where that type of activity can take place. And I don't really see us coming out of I could be wrong, but I don't see us expanding and saying, well, I really want to have more shopping or whatever you want to call it up in Silver Street. I don't see that happening, right? Or I want sewers up there. I see where we have our core to remain our core.
Yeah, I think I just don't think it's, with the density up in the other parts of town, sewer's just not viable.
And, I shouldn't say none of us. My own personal opinion, I think several others here, we always talk on the different boards, we don't want to be a Route 44. Right? And I think that's, not to speak for all of you, but I assume we probably all have a similar.
Yeah.
If
And that was
if you do, you can, I'm not squishing your view. but-
Well, and even in this plan, there was, one of the goals was to avoid the
Correct.
widening of Route 20.
I think there needs to be some nod to the fact that the roads are just getting wider and wider. There's no place to go.
It's,
Route
it's,
20, 189, 10 and 202, there's something that has to be done to get traffic through the center of town without widening roads. You just can't.
well, you can. I mean,
The landing strip we have now, I think is fine.
but regionally, and I'm not saying this is happening, but you have to look at the regional picture. Route 20 is creeping our way.
You mean from?
4 lanes.
From East Granby.
Yes.
From East Granby,
Yes.
okay?
Yeah.
This isn't anything, I'm not saying, I'm just saying, as a planner, you see what's happening. This is a cut through to Waterbury, Route 8, right? And just as a regional planner, if I'm on CROG, that's the capital region, that could happen, and it's probably not in our control. Right, what we need to do is if something happens, where does it go?
That was a little more my
Okay,
point.
so that's where I look and said, we can't control what the state does for the state planning, right? But we can maybe guide that if that were to come, I don't want it to go and rip up our green, right? And I'm just using that as an example, please, I'm not advocating or saying that's happening, it's just, we have to think about the region too, and what we can and can't control.
But wasn't there also
That's right.
talk about trying to, I don't know what the word is, but rather than have what exists now, but to try and make a route that would,
That's what Bill just said.
oh, that's what you did, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
He was whispering it.
Oh, okay.
We have a transportation section, and there's lots of stuff we could talk about in there, right?
Yeah.
To me, things like that are really important. Those
Yeah.
are big,
And I
That's
would
what
say,
guidance is needed,
Abby, on transportation, the state does listen, it's not always, I think they took input on the roundabout
Yes.
from the Board of Selectmen. So the state's not all our way or the highway, they do pay attention to certain things, so. But, we have the environment, budget. A lot of zoning things. If you're interested, the zoning code is also online. We talk about, it says accessory uses in here. For those who don't know what accessory use is, that if you own a home, there are certain things that come with owning a home that are considered accessories by right, that if you want to have a garden and certain things, and then there's other things that are enumerated, like having a shed or outbuilding or things like that.
Past a certain size. Lots
yeah.
of people have little sheds, but
Yeah.
if you wanted to, we have a fair number of antique car enthusiasts here in Granby, and they always want these larger garages, and so they have to come and ask if they can have that.
But that's
They
in
don't
the-
have that
yeah.
as of right, so that's what he's talking about. that-
So it's in the zoning code, you'll see what's allowed in each zone.
I would mention on that, because a lot of people are still unaware, but the Planning and Zoning Commission made the change for accessory apartments on properties down to 1 acre. So, which was a big change. Used to have to be 2 acres or more, and it had to be a family member, and it had to be attached. Well, that's all gone now. So, I mean, I was just speaking with someone, they're like, oh, you can't because my family member has to live there. I was like, no, that change was made like a year ago. So, there is a lot of opportunity for apartments to be growth of apartments in the town of Granby, just on individual homes that are throughout the town, so.
Is there anything in the zoning about trees, developers needing trees?
On certain landscaping plans, there was a subdivision and there was a buffer zone that the commission can make some recommendations on.
Mark, you used to actually, the engineer had to note certain trees of a certain diameter on the.
There are
That's still
some
site
zones
plan.
where that's still required.
Yeah, so especially for, under the zoning regulations and parking lots, specifically depending upon the number of parking spaces, you need X number of trees of a certain caliber every so often. So it's a very specific requirement, and the Conservation Commission just worked with Planning and Zoning on amendment to require or encourage native vegetation on site plans. So that's, there's some specifics.
That was on larger commercial development, I believe.
So it's
It was
any.
before my time on the Conservation
Yeah, so
Commission, but I
it's-
think it was.
It typically commercial, yes. So anything that's, would need a site plan approval.
You can't do burning bush anymore.
That's one of the worst.
So that actually came up.
Because it's not against the law yet, you could still plant it.
Okay.
Environmentally, it's not.
It should be against.
At least you're
Well,
here
there's
with
that
me.
grass that's blowing
Yeah.
into
I'll
Mary
give you the Cliff
Edwards
Notes.
from across the street. That's an aggressive, non-native grass. I don't know what type it is, but you can see it sprouting up in the field across the street because the neighbor planted on the edge of their property. It's blowing the seed across the street.
So just a general curiosity, would be in the scope or not. This municipal complex, built between 1964-ish and 2000, I guess the senior center's the newest. Some equipment's been replaced, a lot of it's still original equipment. Yes, I've spent some time in this area because the Conservation Commission, via some of the folks at Eversource, have budget for free to the town to do kind of some scoping studies. There are some 30, 40, and 50-year-old air conditioners that support all this. I'm not, when we talked about like, oh, this could affect, some guidance on municipal, the complex, I mean, there could be some great, well, in the next 10 years, I'm sure there's going to be needs, more of a capital budget prioritization exercise than, but from this perspective, I look at it and with a retired professional engineer, lifetime in the energy business, I look at this campus and go, oh, wow, in a heartbeat, okay, a couple of years, this could be a zero energy, rejuvenated campus. It's a beautiful campus, but there is a lot of original equipment in these buildings. And the air conditioner that serves this room is an OSHA confined space that's a nightmare. But that's a detail. But anyway, there'd probably be some guiding document, some guiding discussion, but is that too detailed?
The trouble with that is the town is exempt from all zoning regulations, so they'll do what they want.
But, I mean, when I read through this, there was stuff in there about this complex.
you
and
can-
there was
we
lots
can-
of
Yeah,
stuff
we can
about
make
I
suggestions.
would
No
say
impact and,
there's some high-level things, and when you get very much into details, I would suggest that's the time to set something up specifically.
Yeah.
That would be with the Board of Selectmen.
And the board of
Concept that
finance.
says like, I mean, the high level question would be, oh, okay, you've got a lot of end of life equipment. What would it take to make this complex zero energy and save the town money?
Correct, and those are some, that we can put some over, if that's what we decide in here.
Are you saying that Eversource would do an energy audit and you would recommend that? Is that what you're saying? For the whole
I
complex?
think that's really.
So the overarching
Yeah,
comment
that'd
is
be the
mine.
Conservation
Yeah.
Commission going.
Specifically,
Yeah,
Eversource
CPAC
provides
is getting ready to.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really beyond our scope.
It gets The details are good, but it wouldn't be something for this. It would be more like if you're on the Conservation Commission and you come up with this, present it to the Board of Selectmen.
Not even the overarching statement of would the town, would this kind of plan of conservation and development pursue overarching goals in the LEED certification world, in the energy efficiency world?
We could put something that says,
Yeah.
we suggest that the town, we could put a goal in there for that.
Yeah.
Right.
But I wouldn't put in the.
Nothing
No,
very
no,
specific.
I'm just sharing that, like, the reason why it would occur to me that, hey, it's time to do something like that is, particularly in this building, in the mechanical rooms, there's some 50-year-old equipment up there.
Right.
So it's time, is I guess what I'm saying. Not put the equipment list in here, but to say that what, over the next 10 years, the next 20 years,
Yeah, fine.
what could this campus
Yes,
look like? And
I think that's already too detailed. I think you'd say something along the lines of, we wanted to add the town should consider zero energy options as town equipment ages out. Something, but it would really need to be at that level, because then the level of detail you're talking about, it really is outside the scope of this plan.
Once it ages out, you can't even buy old equipment, so that just means you just run it as long as you can. You're suggesting something more proactive.
Which I think is a good
having
idea.
an overarching strategy.
I think it's a good idea. I just don't think it's something, it's not part of what we're asked to do.
And specifically, just your question, the Eversource freebie is $3,500 of consulting services per building. So if this is a 6-campus building, they're delighted to spend $20,000 of their money to take a look at it.
All right,
Where are we, Mark?
I was gonna get into, I'd like to try, Chris, I don't know, we haven't really chatted much, but I'd like to try to keep these things to maybe 2 hours. And if we can go, because we start to all drain out, we all kind of,
Yeah, I think 2 hours is a good
so,
goal.
if we have to go later some nights, that's fine, but, so with it being 8:30, I'd like to maybe start, what do we think as far as a process timeline? We want to talk about public input. How do we want to get that? We want to do a workshop, and we're going to meet once a month, special meeting. So I guess just to talk first on how we go process and then timeline. My thought in the process is we're going to start, we'll do page turning and go through this methodically section by section, right? We can start back at the introduction, and we can talk about the visions and goals, and we can always come back to them. So, does anybody else have a different thought process, Chris?
Well, I guess the first question I have is, when are we required to be done? Because
And what does the review cycle look like?
Yeah.
You know?
So it has to be submitted at the end of September. So working backwards, basically, the plan needs to be wrapped up by the end of June to refer it over to Board of Selectmen, copy to CROG, and then Planning and Zoning to formally receive a copy. And then that will allow the required postings and notice for the public hearing on adoption by Planning and Zoning.
And that's after
September.
June? That's between June and September's public hearings and?
So the Planning and Zoning public hearing would be in September. So 65 days prior to that, a copy goes to Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen may hold a public hearing on it, so that would be in July or August, and may submit comments to Planning and Zoning. And that's also when a copy goes to CROG. And then 35 days prior to the hearing on adoption, the plan gets posted on the website and filed with the town clerk. So really the trigger point is 65 days prior to the public hearing on adoption.
And from your
So that's
past experience, your production time of actually getting it together, so it's, is that like a month lead time in, final reviews, editorial? all that kind
Yeah,
of
so that's a good
miscellaneous?
question. So yeah, it should probably be almost in final form, like mid-May to late May.
Do you typically have monthly meetings? So
Well, I was just gonna ask Jean, if you remember, did we meet twice a month last time? Do you remember, we rode over Holcomb Farm?
I think we did.
Yeah. I was just counting up, if we stick to just this schedule, we have, what, 9 meetings to get this done? It's not a lot.
To May, maybe.
Right?
Yeah.
So, we can see how we start going in the next meeting, but we got a lot of data, a lot of thought process, there's gonna be a lot of discussion, we're gonna have different viewpoints, and we're gonna get to a consensus, so we may need to add extra meetings in,
Yeah, I think we probably.
okay? If we wanna do a public input session, we did a couple of public comment periods, I remember last time, but it was less, we didn't have the big social media and all that back in 2015, so one of the Center Study Committee did a public outreach at the senior center.
Yep.
So, I'm thinking that might be good to do, if we think we're gonna get a large crowd, we can do it here or the senior center. But we probably want to do that sooner than later to get feeling from the public, because we're all working for the public.
Yeah, so something that I was thinking about for the next meeting is that I would have pulled all the data, have the existing conditions section ready to go. So that's in working format. Take a look at the introduction, and then come back more strategic about how we want to engage the public and on what topics. So I think the values and the vision statement is a big one, because that's going to frame the plan, and hopefully everything will fall under that. And then obviously there are these topic areas with housing, transportation, environment, community facilities, et cetera. So it might make sense to, if we want to do workshops, maybe have a couple of them and break them up. So, do housing, economic development as one, maybe, and do, ag and conservation, preservation as another. I don't know, think about what makes sense, and then put together some thoughtful questions that we think we might want to ask folks, and able to get the input we need to help guide this plan.
I like the idea of having different workshops for different topics,
Yeah.
so that we don't just end up with,
Becomes more
you know,
focused.
yeah, we're not talking about that tonight, we're talking about this. We're talking, we want to talk about that, that's our next meeting, that's our next public session that we will have. Because I think it'll just give us we'll get more valuable input if we're asking people to focus on a few topics for each of those, than if we just say, what do you think the plan should be? And we have 3 meetings where anybody can come up and basically say anything. I'm not trying to silence people, but I just think if more focused questions will give us data that we can.
The only danger there is you got the person that shows up on the second night, wants to talk about the first night.
We're just telling us that in general.
Right, but then they've only, I completely understand. You
Send
got-
us a letter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, and we do, planning and zoning does receive written comments
Yeah.
for issues that are before us if you can't come to the meeting in writing. And sometimes that's some of the more articulate stuff we get, because they had to sit down and think about what they were going to write and write it out. That's not always the case. There's bad writing, just like there's bad speaking. But I find that a lot of times those written, the written input is more valuable, because I can read it, a couple times, I can kind of think about it, and ask Abby questions about it. That's an interesting idea, would that even work? So I think if we say, if you can't be there, the commission, the committee it welcomes written comment.
I think that's a good point. We talked, we do have a lot of work to do, right? And we do want public input, but it's got to be focused, having a public session where we get 2 citizens speak this week, 2 citizens next week. A, it kind of takes us off our focus, and B, it's kind of disjointed. And I would encourage what Chris just said, especially Abby or Renee, if people contact your office, if we're not doing a public session, it doesn't mean we don't want to hear from them. Send an email, send a letter, send something that you can distribute to us, and then we get the comment ahead of time. And we are going to do focused workshops, whether it's the whole commission, we break it up. But, you know, I think it's going to be a little bit different than maybe the zoning meetings or selectmen meetings where there's a session where people can speak for 3 minutes, and, because I think that's not going to get us the information we want. I'm open to that discussion. You, as a committee, or Chris, you feel differently, but I think
One
feel-
thought would be, and I'm just going to throw this out there, we have our next meeting's roughly a month from now. So one thought, and they're sort of building on what Abby's saying, having these separate sessions, maybe we have a subcommittee of us go to that session, a different subcommittee of us go to the other session. Maybe that's a more efficient use of our time, and then we're a large enough commission that we can do that, and it won't seem like we just sent 2 people to listen to people. That may be a more efficient use of our time than all of us going to all of the public workshops.
You know, we bring notes back for the rest of the group.
Yeah. Or even write a report, like a little summary, I was at this session, here's what I heard, all different kinds of things we could do with it. I just think, I guess I'm looking at this timeline and being involved in a much less elaborate process before, when I was chair of the Affordable Housing Subcommittee. That's a lot, we're looking at a lot of work for that time frame. And remember, holidays fall in there, people go on vacation. I think to get this done by really final form mid to late May, we can do it and we will do it, but it's not going to be a walk in the park.
And, this is fundamentally, it's a document production thing of a 100-page document or 60, 70-page document. What's the standard approach to like collaborative editing, commenting, markups, all of that type of thing? Does everybody sort of work off of one single document where your comments then are tracked, and then they can be accepted or rejected and edited and all of that? How is the mechanistic process of getting all of our ideas or
I don't think we've
thoughts?
decided that yet.
Okay, but that'll be one of the tasks. That's on our task list, is figure out how we're gonna.
Yes.
Okay.
I said, I would like to get the data all together and maybe have some outside, instead of hiring a consultant, I'd like to get outside resources to put it together in a usable, user-friendly online format.
Right, there are a couple of online resources that I'm aware of, and I'm sure other members of this committee know other ones. I think we can get somebody to handle the pure production piece, because like, here's what we wanted to say. Make it look
Online
pretty.
for the final product, or online for the?
You're talking about, so we normally, and we can discuss this, we haven't done, like, we don't have the document in Google Docs.
Right.
And then you do an edit, and then we do it, usually all the work's done here.
Right.
Because if we start doing it like that, it can be considered a meeting. If we're collaborating, and we have to avoid that. The discussion has to be done here. Now, if you have a specific.
Then how do you just so we survive all the comments, we ought to change that word to this, or we need to rewrite this particular paragraph, or.
At least how it worked with the affordable housing plan was, I would type up everything, have the report or that chapter for the night, and then the committee would get it in advance. They would make notes, and then during the meeting, we would go through, and just throw out and suggest changes or
And even
edits,
just
et
edit
cetera.
on the screen that everybody's looking at it, and you just,
Yep.
that's.
We did some of that towards the end, I think, with the affordable housing.
Yep.
We did that at the charter revision. I would make some edits and send it. We could do exactly what you say. We just can't, you can't send it to me, oh yeah, I like that idea, how about this? And then I send it to Peggy, because then it starts to become a online meeting.
Yeah, that.
But if you just send it into Abby for our discussion, and it gets distributed to everybody for review, that's fine.
And then the accepting, changing, modifying happens collaboratively, so that it only happens in the meeting, but this putting in ideas and thoughts can happen independently of that, and then, that you've got the raw material to work with that says, oh, this speller, change this word here, or rewrite this whole paragraph.
I think the affordable housing committee process worked pretty well, and I think, and Mark can speak to charter revision, because I wasn't on that, but it sounds like they did something somewhat similar.
Yeah, and it'll help us too if we come in, if everybody jots their ideas down on the comments, like, I have a couple here, hey, when we talk, oh, hey, Mark, you said this, Bill, you said this, and it gives us some discussion. I like that idea, it might help us too.
Yeah.
do some work outside of this room.
Yeah, I think that's really, to get the quality of product that I'm sensing everybody wants, we're going to have to do some homework too, for sure. Abby, do you feel like you have a good handle on what data you're going to put together for us for our next meeting?
Yes.
You also have data maps, the zoning map, has that been, we haven't done a lot of changes. There was
No.
a few zone line changes.
Yeah, a few of them. Yeah, so,
Like the proposed coffee shop. with the
Yes.
zone, has that been updated? then?
yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And then the more open space?
Yeah, that was.
Yes, yes. So for the next meeting, what I'll plan on bringing, I'll go through all the data, update that, maps, current zoning map. I'll pull in all of the newly dedicated open space, that we have in town. So I'll have an open space map. I'll do a town facilities map, so we have that.
Is the sewer changed, sewer maps changed, or are they about the same?
No, they're the same, but I will have an infrastructure utilities map. What else do we need? And we can use the zoning map as the basis for the future land use map. That has to be part of this, but I anticipate that conversation will be down later on in the process, but at least some of this initial work will lay the groundwork for that.
Did the sewer, I know there was a sewer review, is that data part, or can that be part of that map, or is there like a usage, how much percentage? I know there's a whole lot of,
Yeah, so we will, as part of the POCD, have to talk about sewer. So yes, we can use the information from the wastewater flow study, will be relevant to the POCD and looking at potential infrastructure changes to sewer.
because if we keep saying, oh, wherever there's sewer, this, but if the sewer's,
Correct.
that's been the topic of
Yes.
discussion, I know, with the
Yep.
Board of Selectmen for quite a while, so I don't want to open that up, let's just take the data that they've
Yep.
done. Unless you want to talk about it again, Peggy.
No, I'm good now talking about sewers.
It's a lovely subject.
Just for the idea, I like the idea just discussed, do we want to work, like, start working on sections and have change, does everybody know how to use track changes in Word
Yes.
or comments? Is that something we may want to do for?
And I think the other thing that I would like to hear from people on, give some thought to between now and our next meetings, what topics, based on, we all live here and we all travel and, some same circles, some different circles. Granby's one of those places where lots of circles overlap. So I would be interested in hearing from all of you as to what you think would be the hot topics that the public workshop should be about. I don't think we're going to have a public workshop about
Public buildings?
public buildings, since
Housing.
we have no,
Housing.
yeah, housing would be I think housing is not, I don't think we can afford to have a whole workshop just on housing, but housing should definitely be one of them.
It should be, we also have to be careful, Ken, that we don't, housing's going to turn into an affordable housing discussion, which is the other committee, right? So we have to take the input, but we also have to look beyond affordable housing and look at housing, period.
So are we implementing affordable housing's recommendations into our POCD?
So the POCD should look at the affordable housing plan. And I actually, per the state statute, you do have to look at affordability as part of the POCD. But certainly if there are different thoughts about how to approach it or implement, now would be a good time to look at
I would
that.
view it like the center study. We're not going to incorporate it into our
Yes.
plan, but you guys should all be aware of what it says.
Yeah. It's interesting, when I read through this, two things jumped out at me, and, which I hadn't really thought and I hadn't quite put together, but, one was the statement that, Granby's regional role is to serve as the provider of fresh air, pure water, fresh food, open space, and natural recreation, not all the rest of that. And then the next statement, which was even editorially sort of interesting, where it says, the team who produced this document was surprised by the limited amount of commercial space available, and both of those two thematic things that, part of the whole nature of Granby, it's not a manufacturing center. It's not, it may not even be a giant agricultural center, but it has this whole other part. And if there isn't space for manufacturing or commercial or all these other things, I mean, it's precious. It's got to be well used, and it's a whole different kind of thing. It's not like we got 800 acres of, or
Well, and one of the
Yeah,
things that
those two are
we've
very
talked
surprising.
about on the Planning and Zoning Commission is we don't have a huge amount of commercial space available to us, so we really should be looking at how to maximize what, and I think that's basically what you're saying.
Yeah.
Let's maximize the value to the town of what does go in there and make the vacant spaces, because there are, if you look around town, there are still, given the limited number of commercial opportunities in town, there are more vacancies, I know, than I would like to see. So,
But emotionally, I mean, I said, oh, look at all those trees, we could build factories, we could do all kinds of stuff, but I mean, it's not the case, and I think that's a very important message in the planning, is that that's part of the balance.
yeah, I mean, I think if we're going to talk about commercial, we should be talking about recommendations for maximizing the highest and best use of the commercial property we do have, not, there really isn't going to be a lot of new commercial development in Granby, there's just nowhere to put it. But I'd like to see the town look at ways to make better use of what we got.
Are you saying retail and commercial is the same thing?
Retail, commercial, restaurants,
Non-residential.
I'm always excited to see, even somebody like Sarah, the goldsmith from Simsbury to here, I was really excited to see that, I think that's great. I mean, obviously, we're not gonna lower our mill rate by having a goldsmith in town, but it's a prestige thing, it's something that people like, her work is beautiful. Just how can we get more of the commercial properties we have rented from businesses that benefit our town?
But of the same quality as Sarah Burns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's pie in the sky, but that's kind of, when I think about commercial in Granby, I don't think about expanding it, I just don't, I've been on planning and zoning long enough to know there's just not a lot of places for that.
You're not worried about a data center?
I don't think there's I don't think you are zoned for a data center, I don't think any of our zones.
We don't have the electrical infrastructure for it, so. that's-
Solar field.
Well, that's
No,
not our
we're going to
fault.
have to look at those, I
That's
mean,
the setting.
again, that balancing act, right, of what we want to look at. We're going to have we're going to use the center study, we're going to have some challenges of what, we have to look at adjusting times. Somebody here said retail. It's traditional retail as we know it isn't really there. It's, unless you want to have an Amazon warehouse in town, which there's one in Windsor, or two in Windsor, which they can stay there for all I consider, so.
I meant more like specialty retail,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the jewelry, like
But,
things like that.
We have to look at that, and the center study's going to touch on it. But we also have the commercial core, if you look at it's basically the Route 10 202 corridor. Right, that's where it is, and, there's some land that's available, and, that's that balance where people want it, but then when you say where they want to put it, they say, no, I don't want it. Right, so, I mean, we get mixed signals from the citizens too, right, so. I think I was here, those of you probably been here a long time, I'm saying it, but where the Stop and Shop is used to be an auto dealer.
Stephen
Chevy.
Sherman.
All right? And I wasn't engaged in town politics, but I don't want to Stop and Shop, it's the worst thing in the, now it's great, now everybody who, it's a great asset in town, right? They have
There's a whole
Geisler's,
citizens community
Yeah.
formed to stop it.
right? And so we have that, that balance of people that want to no change, and, we have to do what's a good plan for town. So,
And just a little point of interest, that landscaping we have in front of the Stop and Shop, that's become, they routinely, when they're building a new facility, they show pictures of our Stop and Shop and how it doesn't, it can't
We
be
made
screened
them
from.
do it.
Can't be screened, we made them do it, but it can be done. It can't be screened from the road. Another example I like is Small Town Septic, near the north end of town, they did a beautiful job.
That's probably the
with
best
that.
one.
Yeah, I think that.
Well, he's down in a hole, so.
Well, his landscape.
So the trees don't.
Yes, he
Yeah.
did a very nice job on the street.
Right. Like, Abby, I haven't heard anything, but the thing that I think about planning conservation development, the biggest fear is Monrovia. We never thought 10 years ago, Monrovia would be gone. And then 10 years later, it's gone, and we're looking at a potential solar field there, which that's the plan. What happens if that plan falls through? Where does that leave all of that land?
So, under the current zoning, it would still be the ED zone, so the
Right.
economic development zone, and that really is the last big holding that the town has for, commercial or industrial development.
Right.
Is there a chance that won't happen?
I mean, it's been quiet. It's quiet, right?
Well, it's, right now, renewables are not favored
I was
from
gonna
a,
say the current
from a,
administration is-
from a grant and tax abatement standpoint, they're not favored right now from the entities that are in a position to really
They're not,
take action there.
data centers. I work, I support logistically this. Data centers are using so much electricity, the renewables can't keep up. We're back to traditional forms, so, I think that's putting pressure on that form too. But to answer your question, and to all the commission here, that was the economic development. That's your part of town where, not that this would happen, but if you were gonna have a lumberyard or a warehouse, that was the part of town where it was designated. All of that, if it goes to solar farm, is off, so we don't no longer have that zone.
I thought there was discussion of keeping some frontage.
It would be small, minimum,
Really small.
right on, right?
Yeah, this would be good though, so
Yeah.
when we look at the future land use plan and the map, so look at those pieces and, think about what would we want there, if the solar doesn't work out, so this is
Yeah,
a
I mean, we don't
good
know if it
exercise.
is. I never thought Monrovia would be gone. You know,
No, I didn't either.
Just like that.
Obviously, the economic development zone didn't do what the plan thought it would do, because it never attracted those
Economic
uses.
development.
No.
Now, a lot of people are looking now at the stack, where when you run into a problem like that, you just move the solar up and you shove your other commercial underneath it, and so then that allows you to, because right now the solar are taking up really valuable assets, but you move it up, it doesn't, True.
I would like to touch base on schedule, because, after Abby's just talking, and I'm really nervous that we're going to have a lot of time. And I want to go back to this public outreach. I'd like to get it sooner than later. I think if we wait, if we have another meeting in October, is November too late? We're going to do it early November.
It'd have to be early November, then we
Yeah.
got Thanksgiving
November
in the
meeting
month.
gonna get obliterated by the holiday.
I think, because October's upon us, Abby's got a lot of data collection. I don't think we have enough time to really advertise something.
Yeah, I think, maybe at the next meeting, Mark, in October, we set the early November public workshop.
So our next meeting is not till the 28th, right? It's second and fourth, and we're taking the fourth meeting.
That means you basically lost November. Starting the plan for November and the end of October. And from a logistics perspective, I assume we're not meeting on Christmas Eve?
No, you never know. No. We'll probably, make a, special meeting.
How much
In
notice do
December.
we have to give for that?
It,
Is it just a regular
It's
special
not-
meeting,
Not
so
a
it's
lot.
just,
it's 24 hours.
it's 24 hours,
yeah.
but nothing can be added to the agenda?
Correct.
So,
Yeah, so it's more just how much notice do we want, so folks are actually aware and
Can't.
come, yeah.
And how do we get the word out? It's just the town website about the meetings?
Town website, yeah.
well, if we
have a
set the
Facebook
date soon
page.
enough, we can get into the November drummer too.
Does the town have a Facebook page?
Mhm.
Can always put it on the Granby Living. I mean, they don't mind using their Facebook site to promote things.
What if we
It's-
tried to schedule
I
the
have
first
staff
public?
can't, but.
Yeah, that's
If you
something,
want to get it out, that's,
that's something, I would say we got to pick some dates, right? So,
Would it be possible to do the first workshop the week of November 10th?
are we gonna do this as all of us, or we wanna split, because we can also do, if those of us around, if we're splitting it up, as long as it's not more than 5 of us, we can do a Saturday too.
That's true.
People wanna come out on a Saturday morning. Like, I just like to put something on the calendar
Me too.
because I wanna get notice out to the town. I mean, November, we have the zoning, we don't meet on the 11th, it's Veterans Day.
Yeah, we're gonna have to figure that out.
Yeah,
So-
but I'm occupied that night with something else, so maybe we won't meet that night. What about
Let's-
that week? What about the 12th or the 13th, 10th, 12th?
We'll have to look.
March, what address, remember?
I think that'd be a good week to do it, because I think by the time you get, is Thanksgiving the 20th or the 27th?
27.
27th.
Oh, okay, all right, so that week of the 17th is still not Thanksgiving.
So Doncaster.
Let's pick, maybe Chris, you and I can work with Abby on a
Yeah,
date if
let's
the
do that.
commission does, and
First house.
we'll plan a public session in
Wells Road.
hopefully the first part of November. All right. And encourage some people to give us some input during October for the next meeting. That sound good?
Yeah, that does.
So we're going to be meeting monthly?
Right now, monthly, but
We're gonna, I
we'll
think,
see if we go long nights or we want to do another meeting.
Put it down
Because,
bigger on the first house.
you know, with,
Yeah. I don't like to do it.
long nights tend, and I think that kind of, once we're really working on writing the document, I don't think long meetings are gonna be as productive as people's eyes start to glaze over. I think it might be better to have meetings, 2 shorter meetings.
Yeah.
Within the appropriate approach to committee work and all of that, can, 2 people take one of these values and kind of, work on comments and then bring it back to the entire group, so that you kind of break it up into the parts and, agriculture and transportation and kind of say, oh, well, we kind of did a straw man here, then dump it all, you print the whole package out and we review it. I mean, that kind of helps do it in parallel rather than.
but I would say all of us should do that, because I don't want to just say, well, it's Mark and Peggy's ideas, right? Because I want it to be, so like, I would, if we don't have it in Word, can you send it to us? Is it, you have it in Word? And then we can make comments on it and send it before the meeting. Like, I'd go through it and take my pencil comments and then
And
you
actually
could
mark
also.
them so that everybody can see them.
Yeah. And then you could say I don't like that idea, Mark. And then we can go on to the next one. But, I think that might help us. Like, I would suggest between now, if we're not going to formally meet, that doesn't mean don't do anything.
Right.
I would take the next 2 weeks, read the statute, make sure we have things covered, and start making notes on the sections. And as you get done, because when we come back, I want to start going through this, and start writing up some ideas, because we're going to hit the ground running next meeting. And it's not like, oh, this is a good idea, let's think about it. We're going to have to start implementing, or not implementing, start.
So we would have some vehicle that I could like put all my markups just in there,
Yes.
and they may not be edits, they just may be, hey, I think, what about this, question, how about this, and then, there's no resolution of them, but then everybody can sort of see, and we see, oh, there's a mess load of stuff we have to work on in this particular chapter, or.
There's a comment, again, if you don't know when the track changes a word, we can give you, but you can do comments on the Word document.
Yeah, so
And it
send
tracks your
them to
name.
me and I'll compile everything,
Yeah.
and get it
Okay,
back
so we
over
send
to
you an
everyone.
independent
Yep.
Word document with our comments in it, and then you'll do, just compare and
Yep.
and combine, okay.
Did you send this as a Word document?
Yes, I will, yep.
That'd be great.
Yeah, so I'll
Lock down the
send,
permissions carefully.
yeah, so I'll send POCD in Word, the implementation table from the last one, just so you folks can see, the 1993 plan, so you have all of that. And I'll probably send links to the regional plan and then the statewide POCD to make sure that we're falling under those, and then pull together all the data for the next meeting and the maps.
Yeah, so I'd say that would be our homework, is to go through and start, I don't know how many sections we'll get through next meeting, but start writing down your comments, get them into Abby, and then, you can say, historic preservation, I have a comment about that, or Chris said this.
Yeah, I think.
And that'll help us versus coming into the meeting and have to do all the comments from scratch. Using technology, I think that'll help us a
A
lot.
lot, yeah, I think it's much better to do, the meeting should be for our discussions. The the decisions we have to make as a group. The thinking and reflecting should happen offline before the group.
Because there's some things I think we got to look at, and, Bill, having you here and Ken, you were involved in the Historical Commission too at one time, right? You said?
Historical Society, yeah.
Yeah, Historical Society. So, I think there's a section on that which is important to talk about.
Yeah.
And, we see pressures are changing on that. I mean, what people think of uses. Bill, I know you talked a little bit, like, the traditional single-family home may be changing, but we need to preserve our historical properties and encourage people. I mean, we have some properties in town that are at risk, right?
Very unique strip of historic houses.
Yep.
It's a shame to see that go away.
So I think, that's part of our plan of how we encourage that. We have to acknowledge that 2025 is different than how things were maybe 10, 20 years ago. So that's my guess. But yeah, put those down.
Is there any guidance that this document gives to the Historical Society, or is that independent?
They are private.
Private, okay.
We do not have a historic commission. Many towns do. We have a private.
But there's it's in some of the regulations require
Yeah.
request input from the
Yeah.
Historical
You
Society.
can't name a street until you've notified the historic society.
Just
Be
a
okay.
really quick example of a nice use that's going to preserve one of those historic buildings. A couple bought one of them and they're going to live there, and in addition, the wife is going to have her speech and language practice there. So that kind of mixed use, which doesn't in any way interfere with the historic look of the building,
Yeah.
is something that I think we should encourage.
Is that the building on the corner?
On the
Forget
corner,
which one
yeah.
it is. Which one? Do you
Big
remember,
pile of
Brenda,
dirt.
which house that
It's big,
was?
yeah, okay, yes. Thanks.
189.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but those are some things we're gonna have to think about, because we have to, how do we probably change zoning regulations to encourage protection of the homes versus the alternative, which is, well, I don't want to maintain it, let me just tear it down and put a modern house there,
Which we don't.
which we don't want. Right?
Well, there's one house that just came up on the market, and another house just sold. And the price of those two houses on Sandbrook Street are much less than the homes that Harness Way,
Right.
$250,000 less. Nice houses, except they have Route 10.
People are looking for different, they don't want necessarily
Yeah.
the big ceilings and I grew up in a 1700 house, I know what it's like.
Yeah,
I have to turn your plate so the gravy goes one way.
that's right. Yeah.
So I guess our homework then is go through this and make your comments. Schedule-wise, for the next meeting, it looks like I'm not going to be here. I have a work
I
trip.
will
Okay.
make sure.
I encourage that all of us I understand we have personal and work commitments, so try to make the meetings. We do have Zoom as an option, right?
Yep.
You can Zoom in. As you'll see, it's probably, if you can be here in person, I think it's better. Just from the
Yeah,
few
absolutely.
groups I'm on, this goes, we're gonna be going through the papers, and it's hard to, but if you can't attend and the only way is by Zoom, that's better than not.
Yes, absolutely.
So for now, we should just block out the fourth Tuesday,
Block out the fourth Tuesday.
and then, yeah,
December, I would say right now, the fourth Tuesday Thursday, November's the 20th. No, that's Thanksgiving. We gotta change that one too.
No, it's not. No, it's Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Oh,
Tuesday,
Tuesday.
not Thursday.
But that's good for people, right?
Yeah, that should be okay. That's the 25th.
So it's just Christmas week there.
Yeah, the Christmas week, it's one day before Christmas Eve, if we keep it where it is.
How much time do you need for our comments so that you're not like going and pulling your hair out the day before?
It'd be helpful like a week before the meeting.
Okay.
Abby, let's look maybe the week of the 15th there for a day that town hall room's
December,
open.
okay.
The week before.
Yeah, that'd be good, because I think just December 23rd, like a lot, people are either out of town or they have family in town.
yeah, that would be a tough.
That'd be tough to get people to show.
Remember when Christmas used to be like a one-day holiday?
I do remember that, actually. Well, this year it's really crazy because of the way Christmas falls on that Thursday, so does New Year. So,
Yeah, it's like a 2 week.
yeah, it's like a 2 weeks almost. Well, for students, I'm always thinking, I'm always thinking of the kids' calendar, because that's what I live by. You know, I live by the school calendar. When my clients are closed, I'm closed.
And if you think of any other data that you want that's reasonable, request for Abby to send it to her too, please. You don't ask her for the Powerball number, so I don't think she can get those.
Where were you a month ago?
Yeah, Debbie, if you just remember, send everybody my Christine Shinnick's email
Okay.
address, because that's the one that, when I became a solo, I decided to separate my personal and work email. And the Chinny and user one doesn't work anymore, it's Chinny and Associates.
Can I use my town email for this? Sure. Any reason why I can't? Because I get a lot fewer emails, things get lost in my Gmail.
Oh, your other one probably came out from P and Z in my
The cost,
history.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Well, thanks, everybody. I know we have a lot of work to do, but it seems
Yep.
like people did the homework tonight and showed up with, already
Yeah,
with
thank you
thoughts and
for-
comments, and that's great. That's really good to see.
So, anybody else have any comments from? We'll work on some dates, and we can communicate without violating rules about
Schedule.
dates and schedule, so
Yeah.
if Chris and I come up with some dates for some public sessions or ideas, we might throw them out to you and just to get your comments, because I do want to keep some of the process planning going, so we're not just waiting a month at a time. So if we come up with a idea for some public dates, we might reach out and say, hey, Bill, are you available, or Peg, or whoever it happens to be, and then we'll plan on that.
So just think about what you think. Since I don't think we'll be able to have a public session about every single topic in the plan, think about what you think the townspeople would most care to have input on. Yeah, public,
They'll tell us what they want to hear anyway.
Yeah.
Good point.
All right, so good, we're adjourned. Before you guys go, can I get a group photo? I was, like to get our. Yeah. Please. Oh, yeah, we're adjourned.
There you go.